Within this short video, we will discuss cognitive dissonance theory, dissonance reduction techniques, and self-concept as well as self-esteem. In 1957, Leon Festinger established the theory of cognitive dissonance. Festinger defined cognitive dissonance theory as the way in which holding two contradictory cognitions, attitudes, or beliefs can produce distress within an individual, leading them to find methods to reduce this perceived dissonance. Possessing inconsistent cognitions is not the only precursor of cognitive dissonance. For example, behaviors that are contrary to one's attitudes may also produce stress within the individual. Now, in order to combat this stress induced by cognitive dissonance, there are different dissonance reduction techniques individuals may adopt. However, it is important to keep in mind that individuals are not necessarily consciously aware of partaking in such dissonance reduction techniques. Also, there are differing reduction techniques depending on whether one is experiencing inconsistent attitudes or behaviors or both. For example, in order to reduce dissonance, one may alter their behavior so as to be consistent with their own attitudes, justify their behavior by altering their cognitions, or justify their behavior by creating new cognitions. A great example of dissonance reduction taking place can be found among the many cigarette smoking studies that have been conducted. Smoking is a behavior that is at odds with one's general conception of well-being. And such smoking studies demonstrated how those who smoke either changed their attitudes about how dangerous smoking was to them, or created new beliefs as to why they should continue smoking. As I stated earlier, dissonance reduction is an unconscious phenomenon, and because of this, impact bias can occur. Impact bias is when an individual perceives a possible bad experience in their future and then proceeds to think about how horrible they will feel as a consequence, while not taking into account the dissonance reduction that will take place upon experiencing the negative event. For instance, after a hard breakup with a significant other, one may tell themselves that it was for the best, so as to make themselves feel better about the situation. Many factors can affect the degree to which cognitive dissonance occurs within individuals. Researchers have found that those with high self-esteem have a much higher degree of cognitive dissonance when behaviors contrary to one's positive self-opinion are emitted than those with low self-esteem. Negative behaviors being emitted would already be consistent with low self-opinions and thus with those possessing low self-esteem. Therefore, those with high self-esteem would have to engage in more dissonance reduction techniques to establish consistency once again. In further applying cognitive dissonance and self-concept to the real world, studies have shown that those with low self-concept in the classroom environment, who don't believe in their ability to perform well academically, consequently do not apply themselves and are unable to achieve high scores. Such students are attempting to make their negative cognitions about themselves consonant with their behaviors by performing at a low-level standard at school. As a way in which to fight against such detrimental cycle for learning, researchers have suggested that low self-concept students center their attention on their own strengths. Thus, in altering their cognitions about themselves from negative to positive, they may also alter their low-level performance in school to a higher-level performance in school, as a way to be consistent with their cognitions and behaviors. This about concludes the short video on cognitive dissonance, the differing dissonance reduction techniques, as well as how self-concept and self-esteem can affect such psychological phenomena.